Welcome, everyone, to MS Confidential. We are so happy you're here. For those of you who are new to this program, we gather monthly for candid conversations about life with multiple sclerosis and other chronic illnesses as well. They get thrown into the mix because there are a lot of similarities. We have a loaded and layered conversation for you today. It's called Picking Our Battles. As many of you probably have experienced or are experiencing, living with chronic illness and disability comes with so many things to navigate and confront. And many of us don't have the energy to contend with every challenge that comes our way. Sometimes these are small daily battles, while others seem totally insurmountable. Some we are steadfast in addressing, others we've learned to let go, even when we kind of really don't want to. But ultimately, we've learned that preserving our sanity and overall joy involves choosing which issues we will be willing to combat. Hopefully, this topic resonates with you. If it does, please chime in with questions and comments during our discussion. But first, we have three awesome regular panelists, all in various stages of MS. We have the lovely Elizabeth Jameson. She is our fearless director of MS Confidential, artist, writer, patient advocate, and the person everyone wishes was their best friend. Kyle Cronick, who is currently studying for his master's in accounting. He is so many more things than that. He makes me laugh every time I talk to him. So I think we could possibly see a future for stand-up comedy with Kyle as well. He also has a great Instagram account that kind of discusses some of his experiences living with progressive MS, and that's Gotta Keep Going. And then we have Annie Brewster, who I just met in person, and I love her more than I even expected to love her. Assistant professor at Harvard, practicing physician, and founder of Health Stories Collaborative. She also published an incredibly important book called The Healing Power of Storytelling. And that is full of exercises, reflections, personal anecdotes, writing prompts, all from real patients. Highly recommend it. So you can check out all the guests' bio or all the panelist bios over on unfixedmedia.com. And hi, my name is Kimberly Warner. I am the founder and director of Unfixed Media, and I'm just here to keep the conversation flowing. Sometimes I chime in, sometimes I think I talk too much. But I also bring my own experiences of living with chronic illness to the table. Please place your questions in the chat box. We really appreciate the feedback, the engagement, so don't be shy. Let's get started. Kyle, or anyone else, but I know Kyle, you've got a good one. Let's jump in and share a specific scenario of when you had to choose which battle to contend with in order to preserve your own sanity, energy, or well-being.
Those battles are every day, but one in particular, my last job, I had been with this company for 6 years, and our offices moved. And instead of me being in the office with all the other accountants that I'd been a part of for 6 years, they stuck me and my desk out in the hallway right by the front door. And I did hold on to that for so long. I did fight that battle. Until I could not anymore. It was too much of a mental stress. It was affecting me physically, and I quit. And that was such a good decision. It absolutely preserved my sanity. It felt so good to walk away from that toxic place. But this topic can go down a million different avenues. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Well done on that, Kyle. Well done.
Definitely.
Elizabeth or Annie, do you guys have something you want to chime in with just to get the conversation started?
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
One thing that really, pre-COVID, I was really upset with my waiting room. It had videos of baby chicks, and I was so insulted to sit there, as well as all the other people at MS, to listen to watch baby chicks as if we're two-year-olds.
Mhm.
And I got really upset with that. So I decided to form the waiting room project, which now with post-COVID, there are no waiting rooms.
I know,
These-
it's true.
my big call to fame, the waiting room project, it can't exist anymore because there are no waiting rooms. I think it's good, but I was so upset that hospitals or clinics never thought about patients' needs or wants or desires. So that was an issue that is just can't happen. We need to really have our needs met. And the other is a friend of mine is battling cancer, and she said her waiting room is freezing cold, and she is so upset because she's in a flimsy gown, and yet it's freezing. Like, why don't they think about patients' needs? So that is really the basis for my advocacy in terms of wanting to make patients number one or number two. I don't care, but it needs to start to the priority. And so that's my one thing I really care about. The other is figure battle is personal. Now we can talk about it later. So I feel there needs, in terms of advocacy for patients, the other is our personal battles.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that because you took it on and you did something from an advocacy point of view. It made me think of waiting rooms, MS waiting rooms that I've been in. At least when I was first diagnosed way back in 2001, I remember like there was a screen on the wall and it was just going, it would like just circle these like horrifying facts about MS and disability. It was so horrible for a waiting room. I'm like, who wants to sit here and look at that? It
Yeah,
was
who
so
came up with that?
depressing. I know, but I didn't complain. So that was one, I guess, that I just like, whatever. So it's interesting because when I think about this, I think for me, the challenge is not taking on the battle. Like my
It's a
husband
fine
calls me,
line.
he calls me a heat-seeking missile because I tend to like go after it. Like I want to like go head on.
too.
But I think there's some like mental health benefit from knowing like, okay, I'm gonna walk away and I'm not gonna engage. So I think that's my challenge. So the one that came into my mind when I was thinking about this of like once when I didn't engage, I mean, it's kind of sad, but it was thinking about one of my neurologists. I've been through probably like 5, and I'm not usually like a serial doctor shopper at all, but I had so much trouble finding one that was actually like, most of them were spent most of their time in the lab doing research. I felt I didn't find anyone that really felt connected to. So just thinking of one example where the doctor like sat with his back to me the whole time and was like typing his note while I was talking and like cutting and pasting from my previous note and doing it all while I was sort of like in the room sitting there.
Rude.
And that was a battle I didn't really fight. Like I wish I had sort of said, I don't know, is it worth it? Maybe not. I left and found a different neurologist. So that was kind of maybe passive aggressive, but I don't think I'm really a passive aggressive person, but I left. I
Did
found
that linger with you, Annie, when you went home? How did that
Yeah.
sit with you by not saying anything?
I was angry because it just felt so disrespectful and like
Yeah.
my time wasn't worth anything.
Dismissive.
Yeah. And I also, and I bring to it like knowing what it's like to be a clinician. So I know you don't
Right.
have to do that. Even though I know everyone's time pressed, you still like really need to turn around and look at the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was mad. And it did stay with me. But sometimes I think with healthcare, that's where I do, and maybe it's not a good giving up, but I'm like, I can't move this needle. This is like too much to fight. It's horrible, but there are many other examples of when I have taken on the fight, but that's the one I thought of because I think that's more unusual for me not to pick the battle.
It reminds me of sort of this idea of bottling up and then blowing up. I tend to do the opposite, Annie, where I'm like, I conflict averse, and so I just don't want to deal, because I know the stress and the anxiety that comes from that can sometimes be really detrimental when you have a physical health condition. But then there's the bottling up that builds, and then the blow up.
That's worse for me.
That's worse for me
That's
too.
worse.
Yeah, that's way worse for me. I think if I hold it in, it's way worse for me. But I think I need to learn moderation.
Me too. You and me both, Annie.
Okay.
I also hold it all in and then I explode. It's just not good, but I'm very conflict averse and I won't say anything, smile, don't say anything. And then I I can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
So-
I did that way too much earlier in my life, and I realized that did not do me any good. Getting into relationships that did not suit me. I got married. I didn't want to get married, but I got married.
So what is that?
I
What
was
is
just
that
like,
thought process in there? I want to
Yeah.
know from especially Kyle and Annie, because you guys are the ones that are just like, no, we don't do that anymore. What is that thought process that when you're like making that decision of, do I address this or do I walk away? How do you go through that?
generally I address fucking everything. I feel so annoying sometimes because these days I'm very solution oriented. I'm like, all right, this isn't whatever this isn't working. What can I do to mitigate this, to get around this? What can be done here? So finding a solution is far less stressful.
For me, it's like, it's not so much about a solution, but it's about sort of expressing my feelings, having someone. I think I do, like, I think there's a distinction for me. If it's someone I'm really close to, or someone I really am invested in the relationship with, I'm much more likely to be like, let's go after it. We're going there. We're going to talk about it. If it's someone else who I don't know that well or don't care that much about, I'm less
Indeed.
likely. Yeah.
It definitely depends on the person.
Yeah. But to me, it feels like toxic to hold in my feelings. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I wish sometimes I really should.
Is there something that you would absolutely never, ever compromise? I know it sounds like Kyle and Annie, especially, you don't have any, you prefer to speak your truth. But is there something specifically that absolutely 100% of the time, whether it's a stranger or somebody you're close to, you will never compromise on?
I would never compromise in institutions, ignoring patients, the needs and the comfort of patients. Just makes me so angry, and we can do better. And it's easy, I think, to better if we advocate in the correct way, which takes a while to figure out what is the right way, but I'm uncompromisable. And that's because I'm advocating. It's so easy for me to advocate for others. For me, I can't advocate for myself. And that's what's hard. I like the external fight versus the fight within the family. That's really hard for me. And for example, I'm in Houston, Texas, as we speak. I'm visiting my son and daughter-in-law. They just had a new baby. And it's wonderful. I'm so blessed. and I shouldn't say and, but I want to talk about my conflict is that their house where they live and the baby lives is there like 7 flights of stairs
Mm.
up into the getting into the house, and in the house there are a zillion flights of stairs. And so my husband and my caregiver have to lift me to all the stairs.
Wow.
And it's been so stressful, even being here to come to this meeting. It was so stressful. And the
Mm.
backs of my caregiver and my husband, they're cranky as hell. And they're human beings.
Yeah.
So I have to pick my battle. And my battle is getting them to do the hard work, getting upstairs. So I feel like I have no chits left. So I feel like I just, what do you want to eat? Whatever you want, or I feel like I have to be quiet, kind of invisible in terms of personal needs.
And that's because you feel like you're burdening them with,
Yeah, I
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And they tell me I am, but they get grumpy. It's
Yeah.
basically think they get irritated and grumpy, and it makes me feel awful. I feel
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't have the right to have any other needs. And that's my hard part is, do I have more needs? Or if I do have needs, just be quiet. I can't it can't all be about me.
Mm.
All these topics, the internal battles I've been having all week in Houston. Well, I should be quiet because I'm so needing everyone else to cater for me to get around the house. So I feel like, well, I don't think there's room for more.
I want to know, Elizabeth, if you were going to take up more space, just scenario, let's flip this. Let's say you were going to be, the asshole patient, if you wanted to call it that, even though it's not. But let's say you wanted to just, what are you going to say? What do you really want to say? If this were your battle and you're going to choose it.
Well, I don't mind battle, but it's a very selfish part of me because it's like, why are you grumpy? Why are you grumpy at me? It's just that mess is making you go up the stairs. But I want to be human being too. But it's so hard. They have their own needs and battles. So it's for me, I want to be kind.
I find myself wishing that your son had thought about getting a different house, but maybe that's extreme, but I mean,
No.
seriously.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he had other needs in mind, like a pregnant, wonderful wife. I wasn't that his top priority, which I understand.
I know, but I'm curious, like, does he notice that it's hard?
Well, he lifted me up 1 flight of stairs, so I assume his back would notice that he catered to me. It's just one of these things. Being in a wheelchair, you have so many chits to get where you need to go. It's like you don't have that many chits. So it's because it's not all about you, unfortunately.
So maybe, but if they acknowledged and said, hey, we get that, this feels like you know, we're putting in a lot of effort to get you up the stairs and make all these accommodations, but we also realize that you have other needs, like maybe you have a preference of where we go to dinner tonight, and we do want to hear what your thoughts are on that too. You know, maybe just
Right.
if they acknowledged that you're already aware of how much they're putting in their time and energy and getting grumpy about it. Sometimes it just seems like we need to be acknowledged.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
notice. I mean, I totally get what you say about taking up space and not wanting to take up space. So even though I started by saying like I'm a heat-seeking missile and I go after it, I do. But at the same time, and maybe it's a contradiction, I also try not to take up very much space at all. And I'm always okay, you know.
Me too.
So
I could take up so much more space.
yes,
I could be so much more needy.
same.
Um,
I have a question from one of our audience members, Danette. This is for the heat-seeking missiles. How in the world do you recover or recharge by constantly confronting these challenges? She says, isn't it exhausting? I raise my hand, and I think that's one of the reasons why I don't confront all of them. So how do you work with the exhaustion of that or recharge from it?
I guess I'd say like I think it's more exhausting for me to be like festering on something that's bothering
yeah,
me.
me too.
Yeah, it's actually like really helpful to me to just
Get
get
it
it
out.
out there.
Yeah.
And like there are skillful ways to do that and not skillful ways. I'm like, oh, I have learned trying to learn still, and I think I do a pretty good job sometimes of trying to engage in a respectful way about it, but actually
Yeah.
not always, Sky. but I do think it's much more exhausting for me to hold it in. But in terms of recharge, like I'm definitely not an extrovert. I'm an like I need to recharge. I need quiet, personal, alone time to recharge. I do.
Kyle, what about you?
Yeah, I need alone time too, and I don't have any of that currently. But one thing that I do is meditate. I find some quiet somewhere, and I meditate at least once every day. And I am a different person when I get done with my meditations. I wish I could share my meditations with everybody because it is complete recharge in 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Share,
Amazing.
please share. I think you did mention in the last episode what you do, but share again. I think people would like to hear what you do.
I do transcendental meditation. It's a very, very simple practice, but it's so profound. I sit quietly, close my eyes. When I was doing the transcendental meditation training, they gave me a word. It's not a mantra, but they called it a mantra. And I silently repeat that to myself for 20 minutes. Certainly, I will lose track of the mantra. My mind will wander. Thoughts will come. That happens. So I just have to notice that and then get back to the mantra. And gosh, by like 15 minutes in, I'm barely breathing. Like my body is calming down. It's so amazing.
Good for you.
I'd like to say I meditate routinely.
Yeah.
And today, before I made this appointment to address you guys, I had to go get lunch for everyone. And I was furious at my husband about life. I was just furious that I had to get lunch, and I tried to meditate and deep breathing. Nothing worked. Absolutely nothing worked. And the fumes were pouring out of my head. If I was a cartoon character, I was so angry. And I don't think I was right in being angry. In fact, I wasn't right, but I still was furious for some selfish reason. I was trying to get calm and peaceful before this program began. I'm still fuming, and meditation didn't do anything. My meditation was on, I wasn't a good meditator. And oh God, I wish I had a guru to tell me, what am I doing wrong with meditation?
Sometimes, sometimes the situation doesn't allow for any calm. Like when my wife left and I was going through a divorce, my life was yet again upended, and I was like, all right, I gotta meditate. I gotta protect my mental health. And I just could not make it happen for so long. So I'm glad that I'm back on it. But it did take some time to just, I don't know, just had to deal.
And I think, before I want to shift the conversation over to like the medical world, because we have some questions coming in, but I think just on the final note, I've always heard, and you know this already, Elizabeth, but be kind to yourself when when your mind is bouncing around. The last thing we can, should do is be like, what's wrong? Why am I so bad at this? But just be like, oh shit, my brain is just a mess today.
I have a meditation that I do every day about being kind to yourself. Didn't work today. Did not work today. I was trashing myself. I was, it's terrible. I know it was wonderful, but I so much for meditation being so wonderful. Sometimes it's wonderful.
Sometimes it just isn't shit.
Right, exactly. I love that. I can't say that right now, but you're absolutely right.
So we have an interesting question, guys. I know that some of us, we've already talked a little bit about like the battles with our doctors and what we choose to address and what not to address. Heather wants to know, what do we say to healthcare providers who have no clue and treat disabled people like we are in the way, let alone family?
I find somebody else.
Clearly, just even. But what about, do you wait out your time in that 15 minutes, or are you like, I'm out of here, even while they're,
Sure, I'll give them some time. But if I don't know, if nothing looks like it's gonna change or shift, that's not the provider for me. I just recently found the most amazing doctor myself. I was there for almost 3 hours, just one-on-one with him, going through absolutely every little piece of my history, every detail of my life.
Unbelievable.
He prepared me a personal wellness plan, and
I want her.
It's pretty amazing. I always find this with integrative doctors. Regular, like my neurologist, I won't say she's useless, but she's not helping.
Are you a reviewer? Do you go and tell that doctor, or tell people that are going on Yelp to discover that doctor that they're not helpful? So that's not a battle you do. You don't do the. What about you? Annie? Do you like to let those doctors know that they failed you?
I wear two hats here. So I'd say, like, when I'm in the patient seat, I'm not very good about advocating for myself. I will sometimes. I have found different doctors. I've changed doctors, but I don't think, and I have disagreed with my doctor. Once I said, I'm not doing what you said, and that was a big step for me. I'm not taking that medicine. But usually I tend to be as small as possible, maybe because I know how busy from being on the other side. So I'm always like, I'm good, and trying like not take up a lot of time and not ask a lot of questions. And like when they're flat out rude, I don't know that I would have the courage to say it then, but I wish I would. But I also know, like, if I'm sitting on the doctor's side, I think that I would value somebody saying to me in a not angry way, but like, you know what, that makes me feel bad, and you made me feel unseen in that moment. I think that would be a remarkable person that could do that. I would value that.
Yeah, that'd be constructive.
If it was constructive, I think I would learn from that. But that hasn't happened to me.
Annie, I love it because I'm like you. I don't advocate for myself.
No.
And my current example is it's getting harder and harder for me to get my hair cut because the
It looks
second
fine.
salon who refused to wash my hair,
Ugh,
it says, you're a quadriplegic. We don't want you. It's not good. What we want you to go to a different salon because it's too hard to cut my hair and wash my head, my
I say,
hair.
fuck you.
I
Yeah.
know, but did I say that? No, but I never went back. But it was, I think, really awful treatment for
It
me
is
as a
awful.
disabled people.
Yeah,
But did I want to pick that battle? It wasn't worth it to me to pick
yeah,
that
walk away.
battle.
But you know what's
Yeah.
awful? Like I have been worked in many clinic settings where there aren't beds set up for people who might not be able to get up onto
Right,
the table
right.
themselves, right? And that's terrible. Like it should, you know, it
Right.
shouldn't be. Or and certainly there are times when you don't have that bed and you have to leave the person in the chair and you have to try and do your exam there and it's suboptimal. It's not good. And also, like, I know from the doctor point, like doctors would say, you know, that's adds like 15 minutes. You know what I mean? The system is not addressing
Right,
that
right.
need. That we need more time and we need the right table if people are in a wheelchair, and that has to be part of it. But the
That's
system is not
and
accommodating.
that's one of those where I think that stylist needs to be reviewed because other people with disabilities
their
need to
name
know
and
that
number.
she's not going to accommodate, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Want to
It's
raise
a
hell.
he.
Yeah, let's
It's a
write that
he.
review.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
of
I
us.
guess review is something to do for sure.
Okay. I
I'll
will
help
do
you with
that.
it, Elizabeth. You tell me who
Thank
she
you.
is and I'll help you.
It's a he.
He.
And like what I would want to know is it that particular stylist or is it the whole salon that's saying like our policy is we don't do that?
Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, either review the salon
It
or
doesn't
review him.
matter.
But yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a great idea. Danette just wrote in, she said, you could start an Angie's List for chronic illness and disabilities.
Awesome idea. Awesome idea.
Wow. Amazing. I mean,
Mm.
that would be such an incredible resource to know who is familiar and compassionate and accommodating and
right.
all of those things.
Yeah.
For the plumbers, the hairstylist, it doesn't matter, you
I
know,
like
like
that.
let's put them all in there. That's awesome. Okay, let's start that. Kyle, you want to be our accountant?
Yeah.
But number one is the health facilities should be number one, the patient.
Yes.
And so it's, to me, the film in my clinic's office of baby chickens was so insulting. Even now, it's post-COVID, there's no waiting room anymore. I still am livid when I think about how they treated me, us, not me, us, all of us. Like, what do you
Very
think we are?
infantilizing.
I
Yes.
totally get it, but I think I just can't help but think it's hilarious, the baby chickens. I mean, it's horrible. It is degrading.
And somebody probably thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
Was
But
it supposed to be calming or something? Or who knows?
just,
Okay, so here's an interesting one. I like this question. I think I would agree with Danette here. I have a hard time discerning what battle is worth my time and what isn't. So how do you discern? And I'll answer really quickly for myself. I think I go to my body first. In that moment,
Yeah.
it's
me
just
too.
like, how do I feel today? If I didn't get a good enough sleep, or if I just have too many other things on my plate that day, I'm just gonna be like, not gonna
Not
do
today. Not today.
it. What about you guys?
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like if it's physically making me, if it's physically stressing me out, like if I can physically feel the stress, then it depends on the day, I guess. Like you're saying, Kimberly, like if I'm having a good day, then I will address it. But some days I don't have the energy. And I'll just, whatever.
even
hard.
if it's like the most, one of your highest values that you live by, if you hadn't slept well, you still might just go, gonna put this in the can.
I'm trying to not do that. But yeah,
I
It's
think
such
it's
a hard
okay
one.
not to.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I think it depends. Like I'm thinking of
does.
like my ultimate thing would be like my ultimate thing that I would never let slide, but I have in my past, is having my body violated somehow. Like
Mm,
if someone does something that feels violating, I feel like I will always stand up for that at this point in my life. Now, to me, the way I weigh, do I pick the battle or not, is does it feel empowering or disempowering? Like sometimes it's actually
that's-
disempowering to pick the battle because you're exhausted. And what's the point? This person's not worth it.
yeah.
Right.
What is this going to result in?
Brilliant. I love that.
That's brilliant way of phrasing it, conceptualizing it.
And you
I
kind of have to
think-
pause and check in with yourself, right? And go,
Mhm.
is this going to be empowering or not? I love that. I hope that
That's why I'm empowered if I can advocate for other people. I'm right there. I'm right there being the best advocate in the world. If I'm not involved, I'll take your battles. That's why I was a lawyer. I do anything for anyone, just as long as it's not myself.
I
Well,
want
you
for
need
you
to
to
treat
pick hard
yourself.
your own you deserve it. It's also, but I mean, I struggle with that too. It's like the question of what do we deserve? How much space can we take up?
Right.
I struggle with those things too.
What would it be like, Elizabeth, to share this episode with your son? And just is that a form of advocating for yourself and for
I
him to
wouldn't.
hear?
No, I wouldn't want him to,
No.
because I
Because
feel
why?
so sweet. He invited us to come, and his wonderful baby. And now I would not. And he's been so wonderful.
Yeah.
And the fact his house has stairs, I don't care. I mean, I really feel it's not the important issue.
Do you know what? I look at sometimes where I think sometimes I get mad if someone doesn't recognize something I feel they should. Like I'm imagining being in your situation and thinking, I wish my son would just like be thoughtful enough to recognize that this is not good for me. I know your son has a lot going on, so I'm not, but then I wonder, like, is it fair of me to expect him to do that and be pissed about it? Wouldn't it be better if I took responsibility? I'm just, forget your son, but I'm saying like,
Thank you.
sometimes forget your son, but sometimes I get mad at people because I think they should sort of read my mind and be like, and I
too.
want them to do, but maybe then I think maybe it's better if I call it out and name it. And then,
And that's what I do.
yeah, how can I be
And I
pissed
feel so
about it?
annoying.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's more intimacy that might come from that. Maybe your son is already sensing something, and it's not that he has to watch the whole show, but just to be vulnerable with him and say, hey, this is what's going on, and it has nothing to do with how much you're offering already and how sweet you are, but it might give him a little insight into your own experience, which could be sweet.
Elizabeth's like, hell no.
No, I would not. I don't agree at all. I feel like he has so much on his plate with the newborn baby. Who cares about me? I feel like I'm not the center of his attention. Shouldn't be. His wife and baby should be the centers of his attention. And it is, thank God. And I feel like I'm third tier, 10th tier. I feel like I'm not.
Mhm.
I feel like
You're the matriarch.
no.
You are, though.
You are. Even,
I mean,
in so many levels. You're our matriarch too.
I may be a matriarch, but I want to honor my son. He's so delightful and wonderful. And anyway, I
Yeah,
would never do that.
I get it.
Yeah. Elizabeth, Heather wants to know how to support people living with MS, specifically you, Elizabeth. Any tips? I mean, this can come from both Kyle, Annie, and Elizabeth, but Heather said specifically you, Elizabeth, what are your tips to how to best support you?
Listen,
I was gonna
listen,
say,
that's
just listen.
absolutely the best gift anyone could give me is to listen.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
I don't really want advice most of the time, just want to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps me too, like just to have, like, I think this is a hard fine line to walk for people, but check in and like be like, hey, I'm here and I see you and I see this is, but not like focus in on it too much because I don't want people
Right.
to be like,
Right.
but you want the person who can like skillfully be like, I'm not ignoring this and I know this is, I'm just checking in, are you good? But they know you're fundamentally gonna, okay, but
Right.
it's a hard line to walk, I think, but
Yeah.
I would like a friend of mine to listen, say, God, the stairs and the lifts and everything, so hard for you, Elizabeth, and so hard for David. And I know how hard everyone's working to allow you to be here and participate. And that's what I like, just acknowledge.
Mhm.
How about you, Annie?
yeah, I mean, listening and also like I just said, like kind of acknowledging that it's a thing and not forgetting about it, but also I not making too big of a thing of it.
Right.
I
Acknowledging it, but
agree.
don't.
Absolutely. Kyle, that's totally agree.
How do you balance that?
Beats me.
Yeah,
Some
it's a little
people
bit of a
do.
non-win-win thing.
Right.
Oh no, but some people do. I think there are people that are just emotionally tuned in to like, I don't know. It's a lot to ask though, I guess. But I don't like when people just like pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But I also don't like to be focused on. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
feel the same way.
get you.
I
Annie,
think sometimes the word just today or right now can be really helpful because I think that we don't want to be nobody wants to be put in a box.
Mhm.
Like, I understand that you always feel like a burden. You don't want to hear that. You want to hear, I understand that this situation right now is making you feel like a burden. So I'm just acknowledging that. So, and then let's move on. But it somehow then it feels like it contains it to that specific
Yes.
scenario, or how are you today versus how are you?
I think that's
Right.
great advice. Yeah.
I don't see that as advice, but words of wisdom.
Wisdom. Great
Yeah.
wisdom.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I need advice whenever anyone gives advice. I always don't turn it off. Like, don't give me advice.
Yeah,
But
shut up.
I want to get their wisdom. But if someone says,
No.
I have this wisdom, let me share it with you, I'm much softer.
Yeah.
So coming back to picking our battles, what if we're to offer some advice, some wisdom to those of us that are less conflict averse, or just in general, your experiences, how it feels when you do pick a battle, that can you like one take home message, or like how do we want to walk away and approach the next experience that feels like we're on the edge? Should we approach this or should we walk away? What do we do? What do we go through in our heads, or what do we say, or how do we care for ourselves? Doesn't matter, but just one thing.
I guess go, Kyle.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to verbalize what I'm trying to say. So you go ahead.
I was gonna say, like,
there.
it's sort of what I said about, is it gonna empower me or disempower me? It's sort of a weighing the thing, like, is this worth it? Is this gonna make me more tired, or is this gonna make me feel a sense of relief or more energy? So for me, it's about weighing that in that moment. Like, is this person worth it, or this issue worth it or not? Because there are certainly a lot of things that just aren't worth it. There are a lot of people that just aren't worth it.
For sure.
But in your interpersonal life, it's
Yeah.
not one thing, it's 20 things.
Mhm.
There's not one word of advice. If it's your husband, it's not one word of advice, I tell you that much. And if it's the MS clinic, that's easy
Mhm.
and it's empowering, but that's one issue, one area. So many issues, so many. That's not just one word of advice.
Yeah.
I'll just say speak up. Because otherwise, I know for
Um,
myself, I just fume on it and it just
And
festers and it just makes it worse. Um, I try to address whatever the battle is, but as calmly as I can. I'm trying to work on myself in how I respond to other people doing shitty things. Trying
yeah,
to respond to them calmly, and address it. And like I was saying, like I'm always just trying to find a solution. Like, let's get through this.
That's
So
a great point, Kyle.
yeah,
It makes me think about, like, sometimes we need to take that pause. Maybe there is some feedback, but we're so riled up that
yeah,
it's not the moment to do it, because then it's going to
yeah,
further escalate, and then we're going to be stressed, and then we're going to lose energy. But maybe there's a time next
right,
day or an hour later where we're like, we can present
right,
it in a much more calm way, and then it's clean and
exactly.
no
yeah, yeah.
energy expenditure.
I'm working on that one too. I think
Yeah,
that is
I
work.
can have a bit of a temper, and that can be bad if a
Yeah,
situation
yeah.
is tense. So I'm proud of myself. I've reined in my temper, and I like to think I'm addressing tense situations calmly.
Yeah.
The other people might not think so.
I mean, I'm like, so I feel very strongly that, like, repression is bad for our health. I really do.
Absolutely, absolutely,
I really do. I think
absolutely.
we need to get it out, but I think it's how we do that. And so for me, the work is like, be calm, take a
Yeah,
beat, take the pause, and also like speak from what I'm experiencing instead of trying to tell
mhm,
people what they're experiencing or blaming.
right.
But
Don't see it through your lens.
yeah,
Try
like,
and
this
see
is
it
what I
how I
feel.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Called empathy.
yeah, but I'm raised Catholic. It's not that simple. It's
Well, you're forgiven.
thank you. With that, I didn't have to go to confession. Anything, I'm forgiven.
Yeah.
I would like to join the Church of Kyle.
I'll
Yes.
sign up.
All right. All right. Well, we are
I'll
not
sign
going to
up.
meet on Sundays. Some other random day. We're going to meet on Mondays, actually, and it's going to be wonderful. Oh,
Do
my
you
dog
guys,
wants to join us.
so, and I mean, oh, hi, who's that?
This is Joby.
So beautiful.
Adorable. Hi,
Oh,
Joby.
what a sweetheart. What
That
does
also
Joby have to say?
helps. The dog heals me when I feel
100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
unconditional love.
yeah,
Oh,
they
I
don't talk
My
back.
love that
son is
so
over
much.
there. That's
Me.
Jughead.
Aw.
Hi, Jughead.
That's his
I
son.
think animals are really good at teaching us what to choose, when to choose, what
I
battles to
agree.
choose.
Yeah.
And my problem is I want a dog so badly, and my husband doesn't. And I feel like he has to do the work since I can't take him off for a walk or anything. So it means I have to give David the choice of a dog or not, because it's his. He would do all the work.
It
And
would
I
bring
would
him
take.
joy though too.
Pardon?
It would bring him joy though too.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Elizabeth and everyone, have you heard of canine companions?
I had a dog from Canine Companions for
Oh.
many years. I had
You
an
did?
assistance dog, and he died a couple of years ago.
Because
Wonderful.
that, we had a lovely podcast guest once who worked with them, and they, you know, of course, still your husband is going to have to buy the food, but Amazon can deliver the food. If your dog was trained specific to your needs, that
Yeah.
burden on your husband could be lessened greatly.
I
No.
agree.
Think? No,
It's not true.
no.
I think so. I think so.
No,
I
'cause
do.
you you have to walk the dog like
Yeah,
4
but you
times.
could walk with the dog. I mean, not walk, but the
Yeah.
dog in the wheelchair, you could take the
But
dog for a walk.
I can't control my wheelchair because I'm a quad. So
Yeah.
someone needs to drive the wheelchair with me, and 4 times a day. Anyway, it's more complex.
Yeah, I hear that. Oh, that's
Yeah, I'm lucky.
frustrating.
Like my house and my property, I can just open the door and I don't have to walk the dogs. If I had to walk the dogs, I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful.
Mhm. How do you guys, moving forward in your lives, we both have our approaches of like what we've done in the past. How do you want to mold moving forward after this conversation? Do you feel like there's something you want to kind of adapt a little bit differently?
I'm gonna call Kyle when I'm feeling like I'm about to explode. I'm gonna be like, Kyle, talk me
Hey,
down, give me the
yeah.
pause.
Give me a call.
Okay.
Great.
And vice
I love
versa. I'll
that.
do the same thing.
When I like to talk to people with other illnesses, I really love to hear their story, because how they cope with things I can't even imagine. And I learn so much by listening to
Yeah.
their stories. I think every disability has incredible stories. And especially a lot of my friends are getting cancer, because everyone in the world is getting cancer if you live long enough. And their stories are, wow. Luckily, I've never had cancer, but there's so much to be learned from people who have cancer,
Mhm.
like temperatures of rooms before they get chemotherapy or radiation, and all sorts of things. Like, you're kidding me. You're freezing. You have a hospital gown and you're about to get full radiation, and no one offers you a blanket. Things
Yeah.
like that. So I've loved talking to people with other illnesses.
So that's a battle you will choose till the day you die, Elizabeth, right?
Yes, because it doesn't involve my need to advocate for myself.
You know what I'll say, like COVID, one good thing that this pandemic has done for me is it's really like lowered my threshold of tolerance for people I just don't think are worth it in my life or whatever. I'm much more just like, it's just not worth, have a much clearer vision of who matters to me, and I'm willing to cut the rest. It freed me up that way somehow, COVID, was clarifying.
That to mean you're saying you're more compassionate now? Or
No, I'm saying I don't have time for people that just drain me, and I've learned to I only want to be around people I really feel I want to be around. And so I have an easier time, I think, not picking the battle with people who are just going to drain me, because I have more clarity on what's worth it to me and what's not. if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you're not alone in that, Annie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Lisa's going to jump in. She's got one final question for you all. This hour went by so fast, but let's hear from Lisa.
Actually, the question I was going to ask was, what's the hill you guys will literally and figuratively die on? The one thing that you'll never let go of. The one battle, if you could only choose one, because you have so many to deal with, like what's the one that you're never, ever, ever, ever going to let go of?
Mine is insurance companies' refusal to authorize drugs and wheelchairs and canes. And I would fight the death. The insurance companies and hospitals don't care about patients. They don't think about it and they don't care, really don't care.
So you're never going to stop. I know you well enough that you are never going to stop.
Never.
Good for you. Good for you. I'd say for me, I guess the one thing I would never back away from would be if someone hurts someone I love deeply,
Well,
I am going to fight that fight.
I'm never going to back down from this diagnosis. Like, I do not think this shit is irreparable, is permanent, is forever. I can refuse to think that. I think we all can heal. We all can recharge. I don't know where this hope comes from. I'm not religious. I don't think, oh, God's gonna fix me. No, I think our bodies are amazing, and I think this is just a crazy puzzle, and I'm trying to piece it together.
and I
I'm
don't
getting
know
there.
what you're saying,
beautiful.
Kyle. It's beautiful, but I don't know what the hell you're saying.
Like MS, neurologist, my first neurologist, she told me I was going to be blind and in a wheelchair. By the time I'm 30, I'm going to be doing these disease modifying drugs forever. The fuck I am.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we should have another episode at some point on like what it means to heal. Like
Mm,
what does that mean for
yeah.
each of us? Because I think it probably means something different to all of
Yep.
us.
I like that. And I
Love
agree.
that idea.
love that. Yeah. And Kyle, I love, that's an energy of innovation. Like that's that energy that's going to keep you trying new things and
I do every day.
driving with that hope. And, it's like the mind of a scientist that is endlessly curious. And I
Something's
think
gotta give.
it's cool that you have that. I love that.
Something's gotta
I
give.
love it.
I know it.
I love it because I don't have that at
Well,
all.
I will hold that for you, Miss Elizabeth,
Thank you.
because I'm sure, like I said, all of us, we're gonna heal. Something's got to give.
Love that. I think your dog agrees. Look at that face. He's just
He is
totally tuning into you right now. You guys, thank you so much. And thank you to our audience that we have had such a fun engagement today. I've loved it. I loved every bit of it.
Thank you, all
Yeah,
of
me
you.
too.
Yeah, and for those of you who are still listening, I know you got to pop off, but it's Lisa. Always thank you to you, our co-producer. She is just the fluid that keeps everything running, and in every way. So we really appreciate you. And if anyone wants to watch old episodes or the trailer or forward it to friends and family, you can find those all on Elizabeth's website or on unfixedmedia.com. And next month, it's a secret. It won't be public, but we're going to be talking with the UCSF medical students, and then that conversation will be posted on YouTube for you to watch at a later date. So we will skip October, and then we'll be back in November.
And I want to say, I love all of you. I just think it's so wonderful, the ability to talk. Annie, Kyle,
Thanks.
Well, you're the
Kimberly,
matriarch of all of this. So thank
Lisa.
you.
You
We
just
love
can't help
you.
yourself. I love it.
I just feel so grateful.
Everyone loves you, Elizabeth,
Love
and it's all
you.
coming on the chat right now. We love you, Elizabeth. We love you,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. So right back at you. Thank you for
Thanks.
making this happen.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
You guys.
Bye-bye.